Why you don't need a diet. Here's a hint for you, because you already have one. Good morning, how are we doing? Just en route to morning devisor sessions today. Hope we are all good. Give me a hello if you're coming in, drop a replay below if you're coming in on replay. So why you don't need a diet. This might sound odd, but this is going a step backwards a little bit. If you think about what a diet actually is, it's just food. If you actually Google what diet actually means, it just means what someone eats. Yet our kind of beliefs around what a diet is, the connotations that it has. Is it something restrictive? Is it something that has to be hard? It has to be associated with suffering. Morning, Jane, how are we doing? So it has to be something associated with suffering. We often, all these things that come of it that's quite negative. And when you actually think about it, that's one of the reasons why we often fail so much. So we fail so much because it's often not sustainable. It's not sustainable because we can't stick to it. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't do something sometimes that maybe isn't sustainable, but you're doing it for a bit of a kickstart. There's a time and a place for doing things like that. However, what I'm getting at here is that one of the reasons why we don't stick to it is because we think that we have to cut things out and change our diets, when in reality, put the glass above there. When in reality, hey Pauline, hey Sam. When in reality, what we actually have to do is make the diet that we already have work for us. Because we all have foods that we eat already. We all have foods that we love. We're creatures of habit. But how can we get these working for us rather than having to change everything? And I'll give you an example of that. You might be eating out this weekend. You might be having barbecues. We might think that, it's not a good time to start with everything going on. Social events, it's not a good time to start. But that's actually a big part of what health actually is. There's a psychosocial side of health that people forget. And if you had to wait for the moment where you didn't go to any social events or anything like that, you probably wouldn't actually be happy. And I'd question whether that would even be healthy. So how can you make that actually work for you? Well, then it comes down to two things. Number one is knowing the facts, aka knowing more about the food you're eating. Because sometimes we have a belief about a food, like, cheesecake is fattening, bread is fattening, when the reality is it's actually not. It just comes down to the amount we eat. And this can change our relationship with food. All of a sudden, we're able to enjoy the psychosocial benefits of food. I'm going out with my other half for food. That's pleasure. You'll have other meals where you're like, better eat lunch now, back to work because I just need a bit of energy. Those meals compared to the other meal, you might be able to adapt how you eat at those meals. And all of a sudden, you're then controlling what you can and having periods of where you enjoy as well. So it comes down to that part, and that's something that we go through in the Kickstart program. But it depends, it's down to you as well. Hey, Jane. So the other part of this comes down to making the choice that you want to make when you eat out, when you socialise, or around those times where you're like, there's temptations around, where you start to use those words, and it's giving yourself permission to eat the foods that you love. Because if you give yourself permission to eat the foods that you love, people often say, well, does that mean I can eat 10 brownies? Yeah, you can eat 10 brownies. But then you've got to go back to the question of, are the 10 brownies worth potentially not hitting your goal? Actually, yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know what I'd prefer. Then you can make a choice. Do I want the 10 brownies? You can have them if you want, but just know that it will slow down your results, potentially. Where I'm getting at with this is our relationship with food starts to change. We're then in control of the choice we're making, rather than I can't have that, I can't have this. You're making the diet that you already have fit your lifestyle. You might have a brownie that you love having. How can you make that work? Have a look at the facts of it sometimes. It might be the same as an avocado. I'm not saying that we should eat brownies instead of avocados, but if we can get the facts and change our beliefs about food, we might stick with it for a little bit longer, be a bit more consistent. What might happen then is that we actually get the results we want because we're sticking to it for long enough to get the results that we want. Anyway, I hope that helps. Time to get ready for morning sessions. and I'm carrying some heavy bags. So, have an awesome day, and I will see you soon. By the way, if you do want my eating out guide and you haven't got it yet, comment with eating out below and I'll send it over to you. Hope that helps. Speak soon and take care.